How's everyone doing tonight? Couple minutes late. I was scrambling for some beverages, so I did during the Rangers game. Had a couple IPAs. I only had a handful in the house, and then I ran out. And I'm into the hard ciders. I actually had a stretch where I was doing hard ciders for a couple years. Not heavily or anything, but I'm more of an IPA guy these days. But I did have a hard cider phase. Tough pivot, tough pivot from the IPAs, but we're gonna do it. They still taste fine, just way too sweet overall. Anyways, I will address it. I see it in the comments already. The New York Rangers did lose. I originally had this scheduled for 10 p.m. Eastern time, thinking that the Rangers were playing at 7. I did not realize until earlier today that the puck drop was at 8. I scheduled this last night or maybe 2 nights ago. I forget when. First series that they're playing from down. So they've gone down individual games. I think against the Capitals, I think 2 of those 4 games that they swept, I think they started down 1-0. I think the first 2-goal deficit they faced was not until the Carolina Hurricanes series. But anyways, little bit of a NHL to cover to start. Florida wins, Dan loses. Brad is big on cheering the L's for Dan. He's got to take his time while he's got it, because not too often am I taking L's. I did take an L tonight, so Brad, live it up while you can. Overall, though, if you're rooting for me to lose, you're going to be disappointed most of the time. I will say that. Chavals was watching the game too. Big hockey fan. Panthers played tough. Won't be an easy one. Felt bad for Laffy scoring on his own net. Own goals are tough. Own goals are always tough. Lafreniere will get over it. He'll be fine. When you put up 0 goals in a game, 60 minutes, 0 goals, you're never going to win a game with 0 goals. There's no shootout to bail you out after 5 minutes of a short undermanned overtime. There's none of that. The playoffs is real hockey, wire to wire, buzzer to buzzer. So you will never be bailed out by a shootout in the playoffs. So yeah, they got to put pucks in the net. PokeChef says, watch an ad on Oriental rugs to be here. Appreciate you getting through that. YouTube Premium. I'm very bullish on YouTube Premium. I'm a big fan of YouTube Premium myself. I consume enough content that it's a must. It's very plus EV for me to get that. Nice to see you, Jack. Jack was looking for me to go live closer to my original time. So damn, I saw you over in a different live stream. I was watching Nostalgianomics and PK live earlier. What did I call this live stream? I called it Pre-Orlando CAC and Disney Future Consignment Discussion. So if anyone has any comments, as always, all my live streams here and on PokeFlips are Q&As. I might cover my current. I might do a little bit of self-promo. I did this self-promo pre-recorded video on Monday where I showed all the auctions that I had up. I have over 300 auctions. I have well over $100,000 worth of auctions ending this Sunday. Feel free to click that affiliate link below. Go check them out. Some will go full market value. Some won't be deals, I'm sure. Some will go at or above last sold, comps, whatever you want to call it. But 300 plus auctions, I am confident that there will be some deals to be had. Lower than last sold, lower than low list buy it nows. But yeah, check those out if you're interested. Maybe I'll go through them. But ask me whatever questions you want. I'll cover a little bit what I talked about. I do see one question already from Damn. Not sure if Ogerpon. Oh wait, so here we go. I want you to cover the Ogerpon multi-mask versus Eeveelutions. Is it a new Eevee like trend? I'm Google trending this Pokemon data is nice. Please, not sure if Ogerpon appears in the anime. I will need to watch some. So I think I should have this. You're either going to see picture-in-picture of me if I have the wrong window, but I think I have the right window here. Yes, so I do. So this is Ogerpon. For anyone who, like me, had no idea who Ogerpon was, this is what Ogerpon is, and this is what the Eevee, and then all its Eeveelutions. I mean, I have nostalgia glasses on. I'm very nostalgic when I look at this picture. Obviously, you've got Umbreon, the Moonbreon. You've got all the things there. It feels like we're due for more evolutions. Talked about that several times before in PokeFlips and elsewhere. But sorry for the this is probably a very nostalgic quality right here. This is kind of like 8-bit graphics, the way that I zoomed in on this Google image that I found. But yeah, here are the evolutions. Here are the Ogerpon masks. Maybe it's just my nostalgia. Maybe it's just me being too old. But I'm not really feeling these dudes. I don't know what's up. It's kind of weird to me. Maybe it's a big hit with the kids. I don't really know. But this is where I'm at. Let me know in the chat. Are you team Ogerpon? Are you bullish on Ogerpons? Or are you team evolutions? Let me know. Thanks for the question, damn. But yeah, I'm a WotC guy through and through. I am Kanto, Johto, and I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that Ogerpon. I actually just opened some Twilight Masquerade today, and overall, like I still enjoy the chase. I like looking for shiny stuff, but it modern is where it's at for liquidity and all that. But I'd rather like looking at peak liquidity type stuff. What do I like to do in my business? I'd rather do Japanese promos. I'd rather do the alt arts. I'd rather do a lot of these newer Pokemon. Maybe 5-10 years. Maybe they'll grow on me, but they're not doing it for me yet. That's me. I know it's not just me, but we'll see. Nice to see you, Johto Giraffe. Dang, did Dan just dunk on Brad? Chef, you can afford premium. Grow up. Nice to see you, Mr. Walrus. 4 to 1% variable consignments available. As always, appreciate the live chat goat being in the chat. Nice to see you, Albus, iFomo, PokeChef. Why are the highlighted messages that large? Trying to rope in more fathers into pals. I'm trying to make it readable. Maybe it's a little bit large, but I feel like that's a good. I mean, it's not covering me up. I feel like that's a good aspect ratio to be at. So nostalgic. If it didn't have the names up there, Dan would call Sylveon the pink one. So I mean, I don't know what generation Sylveon is, to be honest. But I would have been able to name all the evolutions confidently. Glaceon, Leafeon. But yeah, I definitely start getting a bit hazier as the generations go on. Funny enough, like I've mentioned it many times, but I got back in XY era. I forget what XY is called. Like I did not play. I started Pokemon Moon, but I did not play through entirely Pokemon Moon. I did not play X or Y at all. I did not play Black or White 2 at all. I'm way behind in the games, but I know more about like the XY generation. I would say just the species and stuff, because I was opening cases then. Maybe someday I'll be on the eBay live grind like Old Skool Pokemon. I wouldn't hold your breath. I don't think I will be. But maybe someday I'll be getting back into opening more new product and more up to date with all the new Pokemon. But I just I haven't been. I haven't been at all. It's the Three Ninjas. Good movie. Going back to 90s nostalgia. Three Ninjas. Rocky, Tum Tum, and Colt. Anyone familiar with what I'm talking about there? Three Ninjas? Great movie. Rocky, Colt. Rocky's the oldest, Colt, and then Tum Tum. The charity challenge was fun. If I ever have an interesting idea pop up like that, I might do something like that again. I'm definitely not going to write it off entirely. I had hopes. I will tell you this. I've definitely memed on myself, and I've been memed on for my anti-virality. I think I'm at no risk of going viral anytime soon. I thought that challenge had a chance. That was the only time I've ever made a video with some hope or desire and thought that it was a possibility. And it did fine. Like, it definitely did fine. It raised, I forget what it raised all in, but it got me to donate a little bit more than I would have otherwise, and it got more people donating, having some fun. Like, that's what it's all about. I would have loved for it to have been picked up, go bigger. But yeah, if I ever get a cool idea like that again, it could happen at any time. That one wasn't really planned, like far out ahead. But yeah, something might happen again. No plans as of right now, though. I do have more money to give right now, so I definitely could do that. I will be doing, I've teased it many times, I've been talking about it for a while, but I will be doing like the Catch 'em All Collectibles household budget video. Personal finance is something I'm passionate about. Personal finance is something that is relevant to my business. I mean, obviously, I think A couple other video ideas I have coming up that, I mean, I have a document on Google Docs, Google Sheet. No, not a Google Sheet, a Google, what do they even call it? Just a Google Doc, like a Word document. I want to do one on like why I went full time. Like I think I'll just title it should I go full time in Pokemon? And I'll talk about like why I did it, the precautions I took, the foundation that I laid before I felt comfortable. The whole Sugar Mama angle. Shout out to Coffee Talks podcast. At some point, hopefully, they'll get going regular again. And at some point, I know Dave Person had talked about maybe having a Sugar Mama episode, because there are definitely several people benefiting from the Sugar Mama situation with the stable job, providing the healthcare, and that's a huge part of why I was able to go full time and getting that backstory, getting that background, and talking about how it's easier for me, like how I'm fortunate to have that situation. Not that it happened by chance, not that it happened by luck or anything. I mean, but I think it would make for an interesting video, just talking about who I am, why I'm here, and what my situation is. Have you tried being more likable to go viral? Just saying. I would need more likability. I would need more general charisma. I would need more general, editing. I would need a lot of things, likability being just one of those things. So I'm doing what I'm doing. Danner, car's a bad investment. Nice to see you, Pokemon Steven. I did see that you, I'm not a car guy at all. Kind of funny because my dad, mechanic and all those different things that he does, but being a mechanic is one. I've never been a big car guy at all. I just see the utility in vehicles. So buying a vehicle to get you to your job, buying a vehicle to enable you to make money. Like I need to be able to get to FedEx, to UPS, to the post office, to the airport, to go to conventions. I'm going to Orlando this weekend. So for the utility they provide, they are a good expenditure of money. I mean, depending on how you define investment, all that arguments that we have in this Pokemon space, what's investing, what's not. Obviously, buying them thinking they'll go up. I mean, certainly there are certain cars, limited production, older cars. So there actually could be cars. I mean, getting into the nuance of this question, there could be cars that would be a good investment. There would be cars that would provide a good ROI based on their utility. But honestly, and I've ranted about this before, cars are anecdotally probably like the lead thing that I see people just literally and figuratively bankrupt themselves over. I think overspending on cars is just one of the things that I've seen personally, friends, family, coworkers, like more people than I've seen screw themselves over with credit cards, more people than I've seen screw themselves over with houses or whatever, buying too much house, cars. Because some of the things the dealerships will do, some of the things the banks will do, nearly criminal, lending people more than they could or should be able to afford. So yeah, overall I would say no, but in the right situation they definitely can be. Thoughts on canceling a Collecticon to see Tyson versus Paul? Is that this weekend? I've heard about that before. Is Mike Tyson? I think it's Jake Paul, right? It's not the Pokemon one. It's not Logan Paul. I think it's Jake Paul. I would go to Collecticon. I mean, you can do both, right? Go to Collecticon. Isn't the main card of a fight usually like 11 p.m. or midnight? I mean, you can definitely go to Collecticon and then you can be out at a bar during the time the fight happens and watch the fight at Collecticon. So, basic trainer. I would say porque no los dos. I want you to expand on the historically when markets get crowded and collectibles prices rise. This gets obvious, but what do you think happens when these sets get a huge reprint? Shake out the week. So Jake Baumfield, I want you to expand on the historically when markets get crowded in collectibles, prices rise. When did I say that? Where did I say that? I feel like I made a meme over in the Alex and the Nostalgianomics and PK live stream. I feel like this might be taking a meme that I made seriously, but clarify here, and then I'll definitely talk about it more. I'm not entirely sure what you're asking there, but give me clarification and then I'll definitely go ahead with it. W video idea. I think that's the I think that's the Sugar Mama one. Tall guy slips on a banana, Collecticon vendor POV, you could go viral. Yeah. Oh, man. Good thing with traveling is I can reach these midnight lives. Where are you, UAP? Are you, how many flights do you have on your way in? I know Kai recently touched down in the USA earlier today. Looking forward to meeting Kai this weekend. Looking forward to meeting UAP this weekend as well. So I guess it's in the title. I'll talk about Orlando Collecticon a little bit. I am going on my corporate retreat. It's funny, I had some people DM me like, oh my god, you're trying to write off Disney. You're trying to actually write off a Disney trip. Full disclosure, in case the IRS is listening, I booked my flights on my business card. I booked my Sunday night hotel, the convention hotel, on my business card. I booked the tickets for the convention on my business card. Personal card. You'll see it. Well, you won't see it because it's 2024. I'll be doing my 2023 video. But you will see my 2023 expenditures. Obviously, Disney, the Disney Resort, those are booked on my personal card. Those are not business expenses, in case the IRS is listening. Because I feel like I have some tattletales listening. I probably got Brad G cards typing up a thing right after I talked about that. Hey, this guy Catch 'em All Collectibles is trying to write off a Disney trip. So I know I got Brad watching me over my shoulder, so I definitely have to put that all out there. But anyways, yeah, I am going tomorrow night. I'm going to Disney. Well, tomorrow night, I'm going to be getting into the resort very, very late, maybe midnight. We're flying out tomorrow night. And Friday and Saturday, all day, I'll be doing Disney. So that's just a personal trip, having fun, kind of connecting the business, maybe subsidizing a little bit, subsidizing the flights and stuff. But yeah, I'll be doing Disney Friday and Saturday. It's going to be hot as hell, but I'm sure it'll be a great time. And I contemplated maybe going to a dinner with people Saturday night. I don't think it's going to work out. I'm maybe like half an hour being at Disney. I'm probably half an hour from the convention. So I think what I'll do is I'll just be 100% Disney through Saturday night. And then Sunday morning fairly early. I'm not going to be there with the vendors. I'm not going to be there at like 8 a.m. with the vendors. I don't have a vendor badge. But I'll probably be there around 10. I'll probably be there around 10 a.m. I won't be able to check into my hotel yet, which is a little awkward. Maybe I'll try to get super early check-in, see if I luck out with that on Sunday in case people are leaving early. But if I'm able to get super early check-in, I'll check in at like 9:30 a.m. That would be kind of shocking if they give me that. And then I'll be at the convention like all day. I'll just be hanging out. I know I've got friends all over the place. I don't know what sections they're in. 38 and 39 come to 38 and 39 come to mind, I think. Let me try to pull up Discord right now and see. Just so I can shout out the homie sections. Way too many messages in here. I can't find where we are. If someone in chat is vending, I'm sure that there are some people that are vending. Let me know what sections you're in, just so I can. Oh, I'm scrolling up the wrong one. I'm scrolling up the card party one. So I'm not gonna find my answers there. But yeah, I will be hanging around the various sections. I think 2 of them are together, and then 1 is maybe separated a little bit. I think Ray, Swami. Oh yeah, that's where I can find it. I can find it in the. I shouldn't be looking in Discord. I should be looking in the spreadsheet. So section 65 is headed by Swami. Sections 38 and 39 are headed by Nick Retrospects and Ray Shining Cards and Collectibles. So I will be bouncing around those 3 sections, saying hi to everyone, seeing what's going on. I might be trying to do a little bit of wheeling and dealing. Maybe some with those sections, some with the convention in general. I'll bring a little bit of cash, but I'm not trying to spend like crazy right now. My overall, so like what this channel is, what am I doing in my business? I wouldn't say I'm not buying it all. I have some active shipments coming in, large pack collections, large pack boxes, things like that. I don't have them behind me anymore, but recently I had like the Sun and Moon and XY era boxes behind me. I'm definitely trying to build up inventory for future live streaming, future hiring streamers, having live streamers on eBay Live, potentially other platforms. We'll see what happens with that. But I'm definitely trying to stockpile a little bit of like modern sealed inventory for live streams, rip and ships, things like that. And then I'm also trying to grade. I'm trying to get some inventory, slab inventory, some additional slab inventory for future live streaming. But one thing I was doing a few months ago that I'm not doing today is buying high-end slabs at 80, 85, 90, 95%. As crazy as that sounds, I was buying some slabs at 95% to sell them for 100%. I mean, when you can buy a $5,000 slab, 95%, I mean, 90% would be 4,500, so 4,750, and then you sell it for $5,000, you make 250 bucks. I mean, as far as how much capital you're risking for the small amount you're gaining, it's kind of insane. I was doing that very limited basis. More, I was paying 80 to 85%, but on occasion, I was getting a little crazy. I was going a little wild with the eBay vault plays at 0%. But now that that's ending, I am being a bit more cautious. I'm being a bit more lower percentage offers on my slabs that I'm buying. I will be pivoting from my... Well, let me catch up in the chat a little bit, and then I'll see if the chat takes me in any other direction. But I will cover future consignments at some point. Why I went full-time and why my wife is getting a second job. Look forward to it. Oh, man. That'll be a fun video. What about smiles per gallon? Smiles per gallon is a very infrequently talked about metric that's very important. I mean, one thing that I'll be talking about heavily in my personal finance video, Catch 'em All Collectibles household spending, conscious spending. The biggest thing that I'm on about is conscious spending. I mean, the whole goal of money, at least to me, money is a means to an end. And I think a lot of people just spend subconsciously without even thinking. And if they put a little more thought to it, a little bit more intention to it, they would be happier. They would get, like, it would be plus EV to put a little bit more thought into it and a little more intentionality. Because a lot of people just mindlessly swipe that credit card, mindlessly throw out the cash. And I mean, money is fungible, right? Money is, it can buy a lot of different things. It's like, I'll get into it. I don't want to turn this into my whole video, but it's like, I think a lot of people just end up paying so much interest, so much excess on what they think they want, what they think will bring them more happiness, trying to keep up with the Joneses, whatever cliche you want to talk about. And they could just do a lot better. Do a lot better taking $3,000 out of this line item in the budget and putting it over here. And pulling 50 bucks from here to there. And I'll talk about it more in my video. I don't want to go too deep on that. How many hours per week of actual work did you have as an engineer versus what you do now, excluding unnecessary office small talk and unnecessary Discord stuff? So how many hours per week of actual work did you have as an engineer? So what I did as an engineer was very open-ended. I had two main, one thing, I was there 10 years. In my 10 years, I had probably 3 distinct roles. The first role was more R&D. Well, I guess that was the second role. So I had like 3 unique roles, but I had one of them. It was my first role and my third role. So my first role and my third role was more like supporting production. So looking at production, ensuring smooth operation of everything, looking for efficiency gains, looking for things like that. The nature of what I did, I could have filled my schedule every week, 50 hours a week. Because it's like, if I didn't actively have something to be doing with my hands out on the floor, on the lab scale, bench, whatever, trying to find some way to optimize, trying to find some way to cut costs, reaching out to suppliers, trying to get lower costs. And some of that I did, some of that I didn't do. Some of that was more like purchasing. But I guess I don't need to get too far down the rabbit hole in this. But I would say I worked, not that I didn't do any Pokemon stuff, not that I wasn't reading forums, listening to some YouTube videos, but I could have easily worked 50 hours a week every week. How much was I actually working? I was probably there for 45 hours a week on average, and I was probably working 35 to 40 hours a week. I mean, I can't say I was 100% efficient for those entire times either, but there was always something to do. There was always something to do. The way that I do Pokemon too, like there's always something to do. Am I avoiding it? Am I procrastinating at times? Am I hanging out in Discord when I should be like going through conditioning cards, whatever it may be, doing submissions? Absolutely. Same thing with chemical engineering. but overall, due to how much crap I have just in general, my years of backlog, and on top of years of backlog, it's like, depending on how into the nitty gritty you want to get, I mean, I could be grinding bulk on TCG Player from the collections that I buy. Like, I could get a lot more granular instead of bulking off, leaving meat on the bone for other people. I could in-house way more as of what I do today. But like right now, today, working nights, I'm definitely working less. Like maybe I'm working 30 hours a week. How much time am I shooting the shit in Discord and this and that and listening to live streams? A lot more if you add in all that. But 30 hours a week, 35 hours a week maybe. When I was an engineer, 40, 45 hours a week, I would say. I'll drive my Honda until I'm a millionaire and be happy. I'm a Kia guy right now. Not that I'm actually a Kia guy, but I feel like they have decent value, decent warranties and things like that. They get me from A to B, what I'm after, the utility. You can tell Dan is sloshed because he busts out the Spanish. I've said porque no los dos on many live streams, with and without IPAs. You have 3 years to build a 7-figure collection and start with all your knowledge but a small loan of 10K. What are you doing? Pokemon Steven says robbing a bank. So, is it my full-time job? Do I have... So, this is a big distinction in this question. Am I only allowed to utilize capital, like, in investment returns? So, you're talking about a 100x. 10,000 to a million is a 100x. So, if I need to 100x in 3 years based solely on appreciation of certain items, I don't think anyone could do it. I don't, like... There might be individual items that 100x between now and 3 years from now. But could you, like, no one's going to be able to pick exactly what those are. But if you're talking about, I'm doing this full time with 10K to a million, I think you could. I think the amount of liquidity, how deep the market is, I would honestly, it would be a combination of things. So it would be, it would probably be some amount of like live streaming, building a social media following, documenting it as I go, Instagram Reels, YouTube, TikTok, all the stuff. Like Pokemon. Pokemon is a great example of what you can do with a social media following and building your own name and brand. And I think if you went pivoting towards like the pack opening thing, you would have to still do really well. You would have to do insanely well. You would have to have some amount of luck. You'd have to have a tailwind behind you. The market would have to grow between now and 3 years. But I think you could do it, pending the market going the right way. Because if you're putting in 2,000 hours a year, I mean, that's what, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks, 2 weeks off for vacation. If you're putting in a full-time job's worth of work over those 3 years, I think you could do it. I mean, start buying packs at $2 a pop, $2.50 a pop, selling them for $3.50, $4 a pop on stream. I mean, if you can open, it's just simple math, right? If you can rip through 60 packs an hour, 100 packs an hour, however many packs you can do, you just start doing the math. And you scale from there. So I don't think I have the charisma. I think you would need to have that ability to do the live streaming. I don't think I have that. Well, I know I don't have that. So I think someone could do it in this market with the liquidity, as long as the market like trends up. If the market trends down, if the market tanks over the next 3 years, no one's going to be able to do it. But that's my thought. Pokemon Steven is here, indeed. We do have some goats in the chat. People need to stop warning this man. Let him do federal time. Can you tell us the next financial move? I need to start advertising with my name once the check clears, of course. The next financial move, I would say... I talked about it in my recent video. I talked about it, the buckets. Ensure that you're trending your way towards the light blue to the purple. Light blue to the purple is where we want to be. 0 flights in, leaving at 6 a.m. for Frankfurt, then New York to Orlando. I'm assuming not my airport in New York. You're probably going to what is it, like JFK or LaGuardia, or I don't even know what the airports are called. Touching down at 5:30 p.m. for you Americans. Packing for Collecticon tonight. Looking forward to seeing you, Sterling. Safe trip UAP for sure. Flying Boeing, so we need all the blessings. You'll be fine. The point of my question is that the premiums on cases for Ultra Modern versus single booster boxes to me is drastically different than Sword and Shield. Does this concern you? Crowded trade. So let me get the context of the original question too. So Jack Bonfield, I want you to expand on historically when markets get crowded and collectibles prices rise. The point of my question is the premiums on cases for Ultra Modern versus single is drastically different than Sword and Shield. I don't follow closely. So like I buy... Generally, when I buy cases, like when I was buying at 80 to 95% these Sword and Shield booster cases, I wasn't basing it off the booster case prices. I was generally taking a box, multiplying it by 6, and then multiplying it by 0.8 to 0.95, depending on what I was trying to pay, depending on what I had. I know some amount of them do go for a decent premium. Like when I'm buying, I'm not trying to pay that premium. When I'm selling, I'm trying to get that premium. That's just the way that it goes. But, more broadly than like case premium, referring to it being a crowded trade, the main things that concern me with ultra modern investing, and it doesn't concern me for me, it concerns me for the credit card warriors. It concerns me for the people that I see on Facebook and on Reddit selling booster cases because they need to buy diapers for their kid or they need to pay their rent or whatever it may be. The thing that concerns me is that I have distributors that are selling at market price. I have a distributor that's selling Lost Origin to me 2 boxes a week at $200 a box. Distributors are investing in product. What concerns me a little bit is that I'm investing in a palette of Pokemon alongside my dad. What concerns me is that there's more investing going on than ever. There's also, to be fair to the other side, the bullish side, that was the bearish side, there's more ripping going on than ever. Whatnot, Drip, eBay Live, like all over the place. There's more ripping, TikTok. There's more ripping going on than ever. So I don't know which one's going to win out. I don't know what percentages to allocate to each side, but I can make a bullish argument and I can make a bearish argument. And some people just completely disregard the bearish argument. Like some people are like, everything is different. You can't count 20 years ago because it's different. Social media, blah, blah, blah. It all matters. It all has to count. Like there's some chance that the market could go down. And if and when the market goes down, historically speaking, amongst other collectibles, other TCGs, other whatever, historically when the market goes down after a massive boom, even so inside of this own Pokemon 20 years ago, when it goes down after historic print runs, things are fairly rough. Things are fairly rough. Like we could have a 3 to 5 year... And we've seen it before. We could have a 3 to 5 year history where liquidity goes down a lot. Prices might go down a lot. And if you're fit to survive it, if you can Rudy your 1,000 boxes of every Sword and Shield set, 2,000 boxes of Scarlet and Violet sets, you're fine. You're going to be fine. Pokemon will probably outlive us all. I'm not worried for me. I'm not worried for Rudy. But some amount of people out there are just being really irresponsible and dumb. Like that's, I'm going to say it as plainly as I can say it. I made my video, not Monday, but the prior Monday, where I talked about there are people that are shunning 401k match and buying Pokemon on 30% credit card. I've talked to them. I've literally talked to the people doing that. It's scary. It's scary as hell. I sold like some of the things that happened back in 2020, 2021 that people point back to and like, oh my God, everyone was so dumb. Everyone was so crazy. What was going on? Like vintage, it was obvious. $1,000 this, $500 that, whatever. Some of that same crap is going on. And I know sealed, the quantity only goes down, blah, blah, blah. But like, hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully nobody will be taught a painful lesson. But on a long enough timeline, I think some amount of people will be taught a painful lesson. Your $500, $1,000 closet of investments that is gaining 20%, 30% compound annual growth rate, that's not going to beat your 30% guaranteed compound annual growth rate working against you via your credit card. So, yeah, that's my rant on that. Dan, how many MetaZoo promos are you planning to buy back in Orlando? I have no idea. I'm invested very deep. I heard that the price is $25 a piece. I've got $5,000 worth of Dan promos right here. So I'm well invested in MetaZoo still. I heard that guy is buying them back on limited quantity, so I'm feeling good about my investment. Reason why I'm thinking concerning is a decrease in demand for booster boxes and therefore more people buying cases, not opening boxes and gonna get burned when reprints happen. Yeah, like a lot of sets are still within the reprint window, especially if you consider the Evolutions reprint window. Like some people would say Evolutions, oh man, that's like semi-vintage. That's like, some people would call that semi-vintage, whatever you want to call it. It was less than 10 years ago. That damn set was in print for 4 to 5 years. If you want to go on the XY Evolutions, maybe that's the exception, maybe that's not the rule. Historically, the rule's like 2 years. But if you're Lost Origin, if you're Brilliant Stars, if you're any Sword and Shield set, I'm not saying I think they're going to get reprinted, but if they get reprinted and the prices drive down to 100, 120 bucks, and that makes it so you can't like feed your family, if that makes it so you can't pay your rent, like what the hell are you doing? And I'm not talking to you. It's not my situation. I hope it's not your situation. I hope it's not any viewer situations. But I know it's some people's situations. Some amount, I hope it's the exception. I hope it's less than 1% of Pokemon modern investors are just broke dummies on their credit cards. But I fear it's a higher percentage than that. I don't know what percentage to attribute it to. I know when I sold $1,000 Eevees, when I sold, and those are graded cards, the pops only go up, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I know. But when I was selling even $30,000 base boxes, I unfortunately wasn't selling any of those. I didn't have any. But some amount of those people were investing. Some amount of people who were buying those, planning to sell them for more. And nobody was waiting to buy them for more. There's no one today that will buy them for more. Maybe ever. $1,000 EVs, $7,000, $8,000 PSA 9 base unlimited Charizards. Maybe no one will ever buy them again for more than they did back then. But, yeah, I don't know. Question, how much debt is good debt if you're building your business? That's one of those things that's easiest to answer with hindsight. There are people who, per my risk tolerance, took way more risk building off the backs of like their credit card. One thing you need to be really careful with is survivorship bias. So you look at the Zuckerbergs, you look at the Elon Musk, you look at the Bill Gates, you look at the people who put all their eggs in one basket and made it. And you don't often hear the stories of the vast majority of people who did similar and didn't make it. Those stories aren't as sexy. So you'll hear about the person who went all in on Evolutions at $300 a box. Like, to me, I feel like it would have been fundamentally the wrong decision, even though the outcome would have been beneficial, and even though you would have made money. To go all in on Evolutions when it was a $300 box on its way to $1,000 would have been insane. I mean, there are people, like, you could have remortgaged your house, you could have gone all in on credit cards at 30%, and you would have been rewarded. You would have doubled, tripled your money. So some amount of people did that. Some amount of people have been bailed out, been very fortunate, gotten very lucky, and I'm not one, like, I'm one to say that I got some amount of where I am today. Absolutely, a large amount, due to luck, due to having a lot of inventory, being a collector boy, having a lot of inventory when stuff just 10x, 20x. But, so it becomes obvious in hindsight, the people who carry 30% credit cards, the people who go all in on a business venture, and then it pans out. So if you're going to end up being successful, if Pokemon will be up from where you're buying it, the more the better, right? But if you're buying at a time that's kind of a local minimum, or a local maximum, sorry, if you're buying at a time that's like kind of a peak boom, and then it dips down from there for the next 5 years, and you're really leveraging a lot, that is bad. That is going to eat you alive. So a lot of it becomes more clear in hindsight. I am one who personally am not comfortable with any amount of debt in the Pokemon space. When I first started in 2014, I put in 5,000 cash into my play money fund, and I grew it from there. The only debt I had at the time was good debt. I had no car debt. I had no student loan debt, some of which people call good debt. I would argue, depending on the rate, depending on the circumstances, it could be good debt, it could be bad debt. Housing debt, my only debt was 2.625% interest on my primary residence at the time in 2014 when I got into Pokemon, speculating, collecting, investing, whatever you want to call it. So for me, no debt. good debt. In hindsight, I should have leveraged it all. I should have, instead of putting 20% down on a 15-year mortgage, I should have put 3.5% down on an FHA mortgage, and I should have done a 30-year mortgage, and I should have put it all into Pokemon, and I would be a decamillionaire now. If I knew what was going to happen, I would be a decamillionaire now, instead of just an extremely low single-digit millionaire. So it's just silly. It's all based on risk tolerance. It's all based on your personal situation. One thing I talked about in my video a week and a half ago, my reality, some amount of privilege, some amount of whatever you want to call it. My reality is that if everything went away tomorrow, if everything went bust, I have a support system in place. Like, I could go live in one of my dad's apartments. I could go live in my in-laws' house, and I could have other avenues of employment. My wife has a pretty stable job, a pretty like recession-proof job, and being a teacher. So depending on so many factors, I would answer this differently depending on that. So my story, well, what am I doing? That's always the best way to demonstrate, I think, my opinion, my thoughts. Let me try to catch up more. On this point in frivolous spending money, have you realized how easy and almost fun companies have made money spending, adding Apple Wallet, making fun gestures, and other things that make it cool? It's so, like, honestly, one thing that I'll be talking about in my upcoming video, I'm going to clear this one out because it's long and it's kind of covering me. I'm ducking below. Pokemon has treated me well financially. Like, I've done well over the past few years, and I used to more meticulously monitor my spending. Every month or every 2-3 months, I'd sit down, sometimes with my wife, sometimes she wasn't interested. I was doing it on my own, but I would do like not a budget. It was more of like a mass balance on where did the money go? Here's the money that came in. Here's the money that went out. Here's what we had left. Here's what we saved. Here's the debt we paid down. Yada, yada. I stopped doing that. When I went full-time in Pokemon, I stopped doing that. I haven't done that since 2021. So over the past month or so, more so over the past week, I've been preparing for my budget video. I've been preparing for my Catch 'em All collectible spending video. I've spent a lot more money in the past year or two going out to eat and just on crap in general. And one thing I talked about, like consciously spending, knowing where your money's going. I've gotten away from that in the past couple years. And it's easier to do the more you have. Like, and some of that is lifestyle inflation. And not that I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses. More of it's just not paying as close of attention, and it's like lifestyle inflation. Just because more money's there, it's just spending easier. Some amount of it is like actual inflation cutting in, but how much of it is either, I guess I'll narrow down into that in my video. Now I'll talk about it though. I'll talk about it. I definitely used to be a little bit too frugal. I wouldn't say I was ever a Scrooge. I wouldn't ever say I was a cheapskate or anything by any means, but some would probably say that I was. But I would say I was maybe a little bit bordering on like the territory of too frugal. And I've completely gone away from that, I think, in the past couple of years. And I probably need to, once I flesh out this spending a little bit more over the past couple of years, I might need to just like tighten it up a little bit in certain areas. Not even necessarily spend less, just spend more consciously. Again, am I actually getting, did I actually in 2023 get double the value that I did in 2020 because our vacation spending, our entertainment spending, like doubled or tripled or whatever it may have been? It'll be interesting to see what the numbers are. I'm getting way far behind. It's only frivolous from a perspective, though. When Dan dropped 5K seed money, it was frivolous then. I wouldn't say it was frivolous. It was conscious spending. It was like, I know what I have. I'm meeting my savings goals. Our only debt is good debt, the house. And it was like we went on. So just to give some context, in 2014, just to give some context, the next year, we went on a $6,000 vacation. It was our honeymoon, but like for me in 2014, $5,000. It was some percentage, some fraction of my net worth. It was some percentage of my free cash flow, my capital in savings, whatever you want to call it. It was definitely a conscious decision. I'm fine spending. I'm fine like losing, evaporating this amount of money. I never would have thought it would have did what it did. But yeah, hindsight makes things obvious. You didn't job hop for a higher salary as an engineer? Nope, I stayed at the same company for 10 years. 80% efficiency is way beyond any effort level I've put in for a job. A lot of double dippers in the hobby for sure. Honey, I can't go to work tomorrow. I can never go back after what they said to me. Dan's wife. What did they say? Dan, that I was fired. I was definitely not fired. I actually, what I did was on my way out, because it was like, I've got nothing to lose. When I made the decision that I was going to leave my job to go Pokemon full time, I wouldn't say I demanded it. I didn't give an ultimatum. Give me a 20% raise or I'm leaving. But I basically said, I really want and feel like I deserve a 20% raise. And they told me no. Like, they just flat told me no. And then I think like 4 weeks after they told me no, maybe 4 or 6 weeks, I forget when it was, because I was kind of timing like a health insurance thing. I put in my 2-week notice. And had they given me the 20% raise I was asking for, I likely still wouldn't have stayed that much longer. Like, in hindsight, I should have asked for a lot more than 20%. One, I think I was worth it, and we won't get into that. But two is like, if they gave me it, I kind of knew they wouldn't give me it, but if they had given me it, I probably still would have been gone within 6 months. I probably would have been like, why didn't I ask for a 50% raise? Because that's what it probably would have taken me a 100% raise to stay with all that was going on in 2021. Hi Dan, as the upcoming PSA Vault only provides 7-day auction services at the beginning, would you be providing consignment buy now services on your eBay account, non-PSA Vault? So yes, this is one of my titled topics. This is something that I should talk about. I will be offering a direct on my eBay buy now consignment service for single graded cards and for some sealed product, limited sealed product. Feel free to reach out if you're curious. Graded booster packs. Reach out to me. Reach out to me if you have something. I don't know entirely what my rates are. So what they used to be 20% up to $2,500 and then 5% thereafter. That's fairly high. I'm still paying the full-blown like eBay store rates. I don't have preferential rates with eBay. Someday I might get them, but if I don't, like, I don't have a lot of room to lower my fees substantially. It just is what it is. On the super high end, so if I sell like a $50,000 card, only the first $2,500 is paid 12%. $300 in the first $2,500, and then it's only 3% thereafter. So I can do lower fees on like uber high-end stuff, some of which I have in the eBay vault right now. But I can't compete. I can't compete with your Z&G Emporiums, your Probesteins, your DC Sports, who have contracted rates on sub $2,500 cards. So hopefully that changes someday. Maybe it won't. But I'll be offering a number. It'll be there. Either use the service or don't. It just is what it is. Hopefully I can get that rate down. Hopefully I can get that rate more competitive. But we'll have to see. Aside from eBay though, I am going to be doing a little trial run. I will talk about it in a video. I will do a video to launch a new wing, I guess, of my consignment services. PWCC. The way that I look at the selling platforms, I kind of look at the selling platforms like the grading card companies. Overall, PSA wins, right? Like, it's obvious. The amount of volume, the amount of dollars, the amount of liquidity. PSA beats BGS and CGC, SGC, all of them. But that doesn't mean BGS and SGC and CGC don't have applicability. They don't have plays. They absolutely do. You can make a lot of money. Some people make a lot of money on various plays with CGC, with BGS. Like, I don't know about SGC as much in Pokemon. But same thing with that. I would say eBay is the PSA of selling platforms. PWCC, is it the CGC? Is it the BGS? Is it the, like, I don't know which one it is. The analogy isn't like a one-to-one thing. It's not perfect. But eBay is definitely the PSA of selling platforms. And overall, most stuff, in my opinion, is best on eBay. But there are definitely things that outperform on PWCC. There are definitely applications for it. So if anyone has any interest, I will be doing a trial run in June with my own stuff. I've used PWCC in the past, and I would never start using a service with someone else's stuff. I'm always going to trial it. I'm always going to guinea pig with myself. So I've guinea pigged with myself 2 years ago, but I want a refresher. Things have changed. Fanatics bought them. Some things have changed, but I can get rates sell X amount, get Y rates with PWCC. I've already had conversations with them, and I'm confident on what I can sell through them with my own stuff, with some other consigners I've already talked about. So I will be offering very competitive rates selling through PWCC. One thing I can do on PWCC that I can't yet do on eBay, I might be able to do it in the future on eBay, hopefully, but I can offer sub-public pricing on PWCC. So some people look at like Probstein, DC Sports rates, and they're like, how can they offer this payout on this? eBay fees are 12%. How can they pay out more than that? How can they pay out more than 88%? Because they're paying less. They do tons of business, so they get a smaller fee, and they arbitrage off that. They sell your cards for less than you can sell them, doing all the work for you. That's what I will be able to do starting in July with PWCC. That's what I hope to be able to do at some point in the future. Like eBay Vault, even though I couldn't do it cheaper, because everyone domestic could do it for 0%, I was able to do it cheaper than international people could do it, because international people couldn't even use it, right? So one service I was offering through the eBay Vault was, if you're international, you can't do it, I'm going to be your middleman and allow you to do it. And then some domestic people even utilized it too, because I was charging 1 to 4% variable consignments, as Mr. Walrus's name is on YouTube. I was charging a little bit more than people could do it themselves, but I was doing all the work. So what I'll have on eBay short term is more than you would pay doing it yourself, but I'm doing the work, taking the risk, yada yada. On PWCC, I'll have sub-public rates immediately though, which will be nice. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out. I've had some people reach out. I talked about it in my video on Monday a little bit. I know it was a long video, but I talked about it a little bit. I peppered some stuff in here and there. So if you do business with PWCC and you pay normal public rates, feel free to reach out, because I'll be able to give you better rates. I will make more of that known. Instagram, YouTube, my website in the future. I'm 25 minutes behind, so let me try to catch up. Guy was let go. Wake up, y'all. Dan just spawned an Apache cornfield. Dan, what are your thoughts on the alternate periodic table revealed this week? I have no idea about the alternate. Is this some like alien stuff? It's basic trainer, so it's got to be some alien stuff. I see stuff from like 5 years ago when I Google alternative periodic table. So I don't know what Basic's talking about. Maybe some alien stuff that I'm not up to date with. I don't know. Mr. Walrus, ensure your finance bucket are filled first. Not doing it for me, Chief. Is there a way to... So Albus says, is there a way to benefit in doing sales with PayPal, Zelle, cash from a tax write-off situation? Or is the benefit purely from being non-taxed? So all transactions, regardless of payment medium, are taxed. You need to declare legally all transactions, even if they're cash, Venmo, PayPal, friends, and family. The only benefit that, like, the biggest benefit of cash transactions, like in person, there's no refunds. There's no buyer's protection, because there doesn't need to be. It's over and done, exchange. They can expect it in person. Cash changes hands. It's done and over with. Sometimes 3 months later, you get a message from eBay, hey, they filed a chargeback with their institution. That's not a thing with a cash transaction at a convention. So one thing that I tend to do at conventions, I tend to sell certain items that benefit from that. I tend to sell like heavy packs. Hey, rip a pack at a convention, guaranteed holo. If you don't get a holo in front of me, I give you your money back, so it's no risk to you as the buyer. You're guaranteed to get your holo. You're probably going to lose money. It's going to be negative EV, but you're not going to get scammed. And my benefit as a seller, if I sell a heavy pack on eBay, someone can buy it, open it, claim they pulled a non-holo, and send me back a non-holo. And eBay might side with them. So the benefit is more of, like, well, another one too, like, say you take PayPal, friends, and family. If you take a $5,000 say a $10,000 for easy numbers. If you take a $10,000 transaction via PayPal, friends and family, 3.5% is $350. So you're saving $350 in fees as opposed to, like, compared to taking it as goods and services. So the benefit is just saving money. And then some people take that further and they do tax evasion and they save a lot more money, but I would not advise that ever. Can we rub beards in Hawaii at Worlds? Unfortunately, I won't be I won't be at Worlds. I'm trying to catch up with chat. Okay, you hit on exactly what my point was. Distributors investing and holding on to boxes, it's ridiculous, but you really can't blame them. Yeah, it's a little scary. It's a little scary, to be honest. Like back in 2014, I was setting back a little bit of product. I think Rusty, TCA Gaming, Old Skool Pokemon, a lot of people would set back a little bit, but it was like boxes case level. Rusty on a relatively recent live mentioned that he's targeting like 40 to 50 cases of every set. I'm targeting 10 to 20 cases of every set. I've got my dad buying into pallets of Pokemon cards with me. My distributors, 2014 to 2019, they were never selling stuff at market price. They were always like, hey, this is what we've got. It's $80 a box, $82.50 a box, $78.50 a box, depending on when and which distributor and how much quantity I was buying. But it was never like, hey, you can buy 2 boxes of this set that we have 18 pallets of, and we're just going to sell it to you for full market price or 90% of market price. That was never a thing pre-2020, 2021. It's a little scary because if or when things start to turn down, just as quick as things go up, they could theoretically start going down. And I'm not calling for it. I don't think it's going to happen anytime too soon. Otherwise, I wouldn't be building investment pallets that I'm locking away for 6 years plus. But it could happen. You need to attribute some percentage chance. So when I made that investment pallet video, what percent chance do I think I will lose money in 6 years? Less than 5%. But for me to say that there's maybe a 5% chance that some of those boxes could be flat or down in 6 years, that would blow some people's minds. Some people would be like, there's no chance in hell, that could never happen. Social media, Logan Paul, TikTok, YouTube, blah, blah, blah. It could happen. I know the last 2 times it happened, we didn't have those things, but it could happen. It absolutely could happen. Pokemon could go, we know they printed 10 billion and 10 billion wasn't enough. We know they printed 9 billion, 6 billion. All the numbers in the past, we know what they printed. We should actually be getting the next number like next month. Usually what they do is they release in June or July. They release last fiscal year's print run numbers. So sometime in the next month or 2, we should get the number from the corporate website of Pokemon. It'll be interesting to see what that number is, but like there exists some number. I'll say it all the time. Like I will continue saying it forever. There exists some number of Evolving Skies. They could reprint enough Evolving Skies to make that a $50 box. People don't believe it. No, demand is infinite. If they print 1 billion boxes, it's not reasonable. There's not enough capacity in the world. Like they're not going to. They can't physically. But if they printed enough, if everyone can have it, no one wants it. People say pops don't matter. Pops matter. The Moonbreon pop is 13, 15, whatever thousand it is. If it was a tenth of that, that card would be $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever. The pop matters. Like the equilibrium of supply and demand determine what market price is. So if the pop was lower, it would be worth less because today's demand is what today's demand is. Sorry, if the pop, did I say that backwards? If the pop was higher, it would be worth less. If the pop was lower, it would be worth more. That's just the way that it works. Demand matters a lot, but demand with respect to supply is what matters the most. Like supply is not irrelevant. Supply is not, like, I understand pops in WotC were double digits, triple digits. Today pops are 4, 5 digits. They still matter though. If Moonbreon, over the next 5 years, if they just keep reprinting Evolving Skies, keep reprinting, and if the pop goes to 150,000 of Moonbreon, relative to in an alternate reality where the pop only goes to 25,000, In the reality where it's 150,000 pop, it's gonna be worth less than if it's 25,000 pop. So supply matters to some extent. Does demand matter more? Like, no, I wouldn't say that. Demand with respect to supply is what matters. Porque no los dos. I'm doing so bad at like keeping up with live chat and doing the highlighted chat. I'm just stuck behind like 25 minutes on the highlighted chat. Let's see. When are you auctioning those bricks? I don't know what bricks we're talking about. My lights aren't red, but I'm acting a little red light. Ordering items as a consumer to flip offline seems inefficient. Is there a way to form a business to cover eBay, event, Instagram sales? I don't know exactly what you're asking here. I don't understand the question, but you can be a sole proprietorship, or like, you can form a business to sell on whatever platform through whatever means you want to. One video I contemplated doing, it's still on my list. I still might do it someday, but like, how many people? It'll be something about like you'll never time the top. How many people actually sold $1,000 EVs? How many people actually sold $50,000, $60,000 PSA 9 base first Charizards? How many people actually sold $30,000 base unlimited booster boxes? It is a very small amount. Like trying to grab the absolute top, trying to grab the absolute bottom, you almost never can do it. Yeah, like relative to the total market transactions that happened, a very small percentage was at that very tippy top, right? High interest debt is best debt for the lender, for sure. Consumer debt is terrible for everyone's wallets. Oh no. If business debt is how you make money, I'ma be rich, boys. Catch 'em, I got my dad's bankroll collectibles. Oh, man. Honey, spending is out of control. Either you have to cut back or you have to work more. As a teacher, she can't go. Overtime is not paid. I guess she can do summer classes. There's certain times where she can get a little extra money, but yeah, absolutely. That's how that went. I want 20% more. I'm worth 20% more because of XYZ. And they're like, nah, not at all. Dan had I know what I have vibes at his job. I know what I bring. I know what I bring to the table. They did not agree. I'm not vending at Collecticon. I'm just going. I'm going Sunday only. So I'll probably be there. I probably won't see anyone Saturday night. I'll probably be doing the Disney thing all day Saturday. I'll probably be coming to the convention area 9:30 a.m. ish, trying to get there for like normal. I don't think I bought VIP tickets. I think I just bought normal ones. But yeah, I'll probably be getting in around 10 a.m. to the convention. Maybe I'll be able to sneak early check-in. Maybe I can't. Thankfully, I have a few sections worth of people. I can just stash my bags there if I have to. Hopefully, they won't charge me too high of a storage fee. But yeah, I'll be bouncing around between the sections on Sunday. I might be doing a little bit of buying. I've got a couple items. I'm just gonna show the backside. I've got a couple very nice packages to hand off. A consigner, some great cards going back to a consigner, unfortunately, that came back from the eBay vault. And then a good friend in the hobby that I am facilitating a little deal. I've done it a few times, but I facilitated another high-end deal between an international friend of mine and a domestic company. So that'll be exciting to see him add another card to his collection that I was able to help facilitate. Dan took smoke breaks even though he doesn't smoke. Hey man, if they get to leave the building for 6 minutes every 2 hours, like I should be able to too, right? My rates remain the same. Hit me up, people. I don't watch Joe Rogan. Albus is an IRS plant. Yeah, you gotta watch out. Be careful. There's eyes everywhere. I don't know who Terrence Howard is. Sounds like somebody that was on Joe Rogan. How do I 3x? Spotify, you can 3x. You cannot, unfortunately, 3x on YouTube, especially when it's live. I do not have Asian mom facts. I do not have a physical store. I do vend some conventions, but I'm entirely online. I'm primarily on eBay. I will be starting in June. I will have some stuff on PWCC. The way PWCC works, though, I will likely in the future, maybe once a month, I'll have like a featured collection. But most things will just be funneled into their weekly auctions, and they'll be sold amongst all their other items. They won't really have any special eyes on them or any, like, they won't have any special way to filter them out or distinguish them, which has benefits. Like sometimes there is a detriment to having all your stuff. Like, that's one thing I'll say about eBay. It's nice that you can have the name and the branding, and it's nice that you can kind of correlate to, hey, I've been selling on eBay, all this positive feedback, all this and that. But on the same respect, you have to deal with customer messages. And nice thing about PWCC, nice thing about if you're consigning through me on my eBay, you don't see any of that. I'm the one who sees it. But nice thing for me about kind of doing consignments through PWCC, it takes that out entirely. Like, you can't message PWCC and just message them. Like, one thing I will say, in the past couple years, I forget when it happened exactly, but eBay made messaging on eBay, especially mobile, they made it feel a lot more like texting. They made it feel a lot more like you're talking to someone via text message, like one of your buddies. And when they made that transition to that experience, that feel for the messages, a lot more buyers, oftentimes tire kickers, oftentimes people that aren't going to buy anything, they just talk so much more. They talk so much more casually. They waste so much more time because that's just like the feel that eBay made for it. I hate that. Like, I hate the entire redesign of the eBay messaging that happened in the past few years. I wish it felt more like messaging. I wish it felt more like emailing, like more of a, because all these people my age and younger especially, we don't email. We don't email too much, but we text a lot. We do Discord, we text, we DM, this and that. When they made eBay messaging feel more like DMing and text messaging, that was a miserable change because people just feel way more free to doing it. Yeah. Takibana had the answers at the ready for me. Oh man, that's funny. We got Asian mom facts, giving some Asian mom facts in chat. Y'all have no idea how many pallets distros hiding in the back rooms, why you think they keep finding product. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, it's a little scary. It's a little scary that Rudy has 1,000. Like, I'm not scared on the sole basis that Rudy has 1,000 boxes, because I know Rudy has a crap ton of money. I'm not scared for me having a pallet here or a pallet there or whatever I have. Low six figures. Like, Rudy has well into the 7 figures in Pokemon. If you count Magic and Flesh and Blood and all the other stuff, he probably has 8 figures of sealed product. But I'm not worried for, because it's all relative. It's all relative to like what the total net worth is. It's all relative to what are the chances people are going to have to dip into that. Distributors, to be honest, distributors, most of them are probably, maybe none of them are public companies, but still they have to answer to boards. They have to answer to investors. If or when things start turning dark, distributors might have to just unload, unleash, and dump product. Like right now, it would be silly to think of that. It would be silly to think of that because they have the ability to sell a limit 2 weekly to each of their customers of Lost Origin at $200 a box. But if things got dark enough, they would be forced to sell. And yeah, people don't want to hear it. People don't care about it. People don't want to hear about the downside caveats, whatever. Yeah, it is what it is. The MetaZoo bricks. How much do you make a year? He has a whole video on it earlier this year. I think his net take home was just over 100K. When I was a chemical engineer, I never made as a chemical engineer, which sounds crazy. Sounds like a really fancy job title. Sounds like let me see what the average this year is. But I live in the woods. Let me see what average chemical engineer salary is today. So this says 112,000 for the median. I don't know if this is a starting salary or mid-career or whatever it is, but as a chemical engineer, I never made 100,000. This says the average annual salary for an entry-level chemical engineer is 87,000. I was way underpaid. I never made 100,000 though. Whoops, I accidentally turned off my music. I never made 100,000 as a chemical engineer. My gross on everything in 2023 was about 2 million. A large portion of that was consignor cards. Some portion of that was my cards. The thing that, and I know that there's people out there criticizing. There's people out there that criticize. People share their gross number, but they don't share their net number. The net number, there's a lot of context that needs to be given with it. People this day and age have way too short of attention spans to give a shit about context. But like here, let me give you some context. So I'm a very transparent guy. I've actually said before, if people were to ask me more specific questions, I would give more specific answers. A lot of times people cry about like, oh, no Pokemon content's good, and then in Q&As they're just like asking stupid questions, asking like memes, and the memes are fun, the conversation's fun, but it's like, I joked with Ernesto before. He's constantly saying in live chats that he wants to jump. I'm like, Ernesto, it's a choose your own adventure. It's a Q&A. Ask a question, I'll answer it. It's a choose your own adventure, and you're choosing to jump. Like, what are we doing here? So Takibana, or no, sorry, it's Asian Mom Facts. Ask, how much do you make a year? I sold 2 million last year. I think it was 700,000 or 800,000 of that was consignments. And consignments, depending, I mean, I paid 0%. I made 1 to 5%. Depending on the value tier, I made 1 to 5% on that. Less because I had shipping fees and this and that. So say I made 3% on 800,000. So consignments alone, and it doesn't, I mean, it's a big number that works down to a very small number. So on consignments, I might have only netted 24, 25 grand on 800,000 in sales. As crazy as that sounds, that's what the numbers were. Consignment was a big gross, low net type of business. The other 1.2 million, that's where the nuance comes in. On my like modern stuff, there's some amount of grading misses I sell at a loss. There's some amount of stuff I sell at a 10, 20, 30, 50% loss. I have some MetaZoo. I'm selling at a 70% loss, 60% loss. So there's a combination of some loss, and there's a combination of some gain. I bought that $54,000 collection. On that collection alone, I might make 10 grand. I might make 10 or 15 grand. So on that 54,000, I make 20%. If I made 20% on all my 1.2 million, I would have made $240,000. Did I? I mean, again, some amount of the 1.2 I lost money on. Some amount of it I made 20% on. Some amount of it I made a lot of money on. Some amount of it, I have stuff that I bought back in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. I have stuff that I bought that's 20x. I have some stuff that I'm making a 95% profit margin on. I have certain sheets still that I haven't sold yet. I have certain things that I haven't sold yet that when I sell them, I'll make a 95% margin on. So overall, I make as little as negative percent. On consignment, I make 1 to 5% maybe. And then everywhere from negative to 1,000%. Where does it average out? What does the IRS see that I make? That's a combination of many things. I feel like it would be safe to say, me personally, and some people will be different, 15 to 20% of what my gross is feels like a reasonable number. Certain years, it's going to be lower. Certain years, it's going to be higher. Ultimately, the number doesn't mean that much still because it can't be replicated fully. Aspects of it can be replicated. But like, I don't care enough to parse out how much of what I make is long-term capital gains, how much of what I make is this and that. And honestly, if you're doing this the right way, and a lot of people are, the right way for you. The right way for me is accrual basis. I'm taking a lot of money out of the hobby. Right way for me is S corporation, payroll, filling up those tax advantage buckets, and taking a lot of money out, paying taxes on as I go. The right way for a lot of people is cash basis filing. They're making nothing. Every year they're making nothing on paper. Maybe they put a little bit away. Maybe they make 20, 30 grand so that they can fill their tax advantage buckets, but then they're buying down to zero so that they pay no taxes. Like, that's just good business. To think, to take into account tax strategy is good business. So I do some amount of that. I'm more limited in what I can do given that I'm accrual basis. But as accrual basis, as opposed to cash basis, you don't have all the freedoms. But I still have certain freedoms. I still have the ability to realize certain long-term capital gains and stagger other ones until a future year. So in 2021 in particular, I took a lot of long-term capital gains, and some of those have benefits that you can take them as long-term capital gains at the 28% rate instead of paying your highest marginal rate. But there's a lot there. Like, it's a really good question. I've actually never, I don't think I've ever been asked, because had I been asked, I would have answered with a fair bit of transparency. Like, one thing I'll always say, one thing I'll always do with this channel is be quite transparent. And Ernie's kind of catching strays, but definitely some complaints that I get. My live streams are just memeing about this and that, and lawnmowers and food and milk, cereal. What order do you put them in? That's what people are talking about, and that's what people are asking. If you guys want nitty-gritty business details of what I do and what I'm here doing, that's what I'm here for. Like, if you want to take it the way of just hanging out, having some beers, like, I'm all for that, but I'm also all for, like, sharing intimate details of the business too. So yeah, let me continue on. I'm sure chat's having fun with that. Over 1 million revenue. In 2023, it was $2 million. It was 1.3 on eBay. It was X 100,000 on Troll and Toad Evo. It was a little bit more on PWCC and Heritage Gold. Like, I do a little bit everywhere. I sell some on ComCon. I sell all over the place. In-person conventions, all over the place. And it's all very different profit margins. Anyone know how much he made the year before? Asking for a friend. Dan never watched Get Rich or Die Trying, and it shows. Oh, I just jumped to the bottom. I'm gonna scroll up. Dan hates conversation. Got it. Dan hates the buyer experiences. He just wants their money, and that's just plain disgusting. That must be when I was talking about the eBay messages. I don't have, like, I haven't spent the time to put all this information together. But the more, like, there is an inverse correlation between the amount of messages you get and the amount of value that customer brings. The more they message you, overall, averaged across a large sample size. Like, there are some individual customers that I have that message me all the time, and they're great customers, and they buy stuff all the time. But overall, the more messages you get, the more requests for pictures and videos and timestamps and this and that on eBay, the less likely you're going to have a positive selling experience. One, if you're lucky, they might just ghost you and not buy anything. Two, the more messages they send is positively correlated with the amount of likelihood that they'll leave you a negative feedback. I know that. I guarantee that. Over tens of thousands of transactions, over 20 years on eBay, the more they talk to you, the more likely they'll leave you a negative feedback. That's just facts. That's just guaranteed. I miss YouTube messaging. Distros probably have 7+ figures of out-of-stock items hiding in the back. I have no idea. It's all relative. I think certain ones are more paper-handed, as they should be. More of them are distributing product as they should be, as they're designed to be. Whereas other ones are doing more backdoor deals, selling through other names, and just hoarding product. But we'll never know. Like, I don't know. That was before inflation, Daniel. Remember, money was worth a lot more back then. That's fair. So Dan was a below average chemical engineer. Got it. I remember when I started. So when I started, I remember the year that I graduated college. And again, transparency. Like, I don't care about sharing these numbers. I started in 2011. I graduated. Per, like, all the information that I could find, the average chemical engineer, average or median, I forget which one, the average chemical engineer starting a job with a bachelor's degree in 2011 was like 60K. I took 52.5K. And part of that was like, it was within driving distance of my parents' house. I lived with my parents for 2 years after college. Almost 2 years on the dot, actually. So I graduated college. Year one after graduating college, and part of me, like, living in a small town, not having to move to California, not having to move to New York City, not having to move to the oil field somewhere in Texas, I saved a lot of money. I saved a lot of money being able to live with my parents and make 52 and a half instead of making 60 or 70. And year one of living with my parents, I paid off my student loans. I had 20 or 30 grand in student loans, and I paid them all off year one. And then year two, I saved up like a $25,000, $30,000 down payment for a house. So yeah, that was my journey. Yeah, some people would cry, Dan had this and that, and I got kicked out when I was 18. And absolutely, some people have more, some people have less. I'm very thankful for having had parents who allowed me to live there with them and subsidized my housing. I paid no rent. I paid nothing towards like groceries or anything. Definitely helped out around the house. Definitely worked with my dad some here and there. But what I had was what I had. Some people will use that and they will cry about it. I didn't have that. That's why this, that, other thing. That's just the nature of some people. But let me continue on before I rant too far down that. Nobody cares about context, so let me give you some context. I just finished giving some context, and I kept myself from going much further down that one. Them IPAs hitting hard right now. I'm honestly, like, light buzz, but I'm by no means, like, hammered or anything. We've been going an hour and a half, and I've been coasting on the same Angry Orchard hard cider that I'm not a huge fan of. It gets a little dark after this one. I have some other hard ciders that my wife picked out at one of our local, what do you even call them? Apple orchard. Yeah, I was gonna say at one of our local breweries, but it's not a brewery. It's an orchard. This one has pineapple with hints of mango, a hard cider from Beacon Skiff, a relatively local orchard. So that's gonna be my next one. We're gonna get into soon. Oh man, damn! Give me a raise or I quit, boss. Let's not get cute with words. That's funny. Nesto catching strays when he's not here. Sorry, Nesto. I'll see you on Sunday, though. I'll buy you a beer. Dan's drunk and resorts to shooting strays at Ernesto. Just show us your tax return. Why talk so much? So I'm very transparent. That's one thing I'll not do. That goes way into the territory of, like, too much information. Again, people will take that and people will just run with like, simultaneously, like, Brad will run with the narrative of how's he only showing that he made way more, Dan's evading taxes, and then other people will say how's he making so little, what's, like, nothing good would come from it. Those numbers are between me and my accountant and the IRS, but I gave you a pretty tight range. And people, like, I should turn the lights red. Let me turn the lights red as I say this. People are really dumb and ignorant and have no effing clue how taxes work. So again, I remember Pokey and Eevee. Pokey and Eevee made a video. He made like a TikTok and a YouTube short where he talked about, it was December, and he was spending down a bunch of money to try to spend down to zero so he owed less in taxes. That's actually how it works. There were a bunch of dummies going around clipping it and sharing it and then lighting up the comments saying he was committing tax fraud, saying he was doing this and doing that. He was being a smart businessman that files cash basis. He was using the tax code to strive towards his goals, whatever they were, and people are just so dumb and ignorant that they jumped on him over something he was right on. So I will give transparency to an extent, but there's always going to be a limit, right? There's always got to be. A very long answer for what I thought was a meme question. That could summarize a large portion of this channel. Unfortunately, I just have to work with what I've got, and most of what my chat is meme questions, so I've got to use those to pivot into sometimes serious conversation, but usually just rants. Someone asked, how much do you make in a year? And Drunk Dan goes on, I got hella money tangent, shaking my head. What are some pros and cons of going through the process of setting up a business now if you're just in an investment phase, buying product but not planning to sell for a few years? So one thing, I had a conversation with somebody that I know the answers to most tax topics that pertain to me and my business. So I never only invested. Like starting back in 2014, I bought and I sold, and I bought and I sold, and that's always what I did from the jump. So theoretically, and I might make a video on this, I might actually consult with my accountant. I might pay a lot of money. I might pay $150 an hour talking to my accountant to figure out the answer to this, which is kind of crazy because it doesn't pertain to me. But in the future, it could maybe open up another S corporation under a different name and do different kind of stuff with it. But say you have a business and what your intent is to invest $5,000 a month for the first 10 years and never sell any of it until year 11. How does that work exactly? I genuinely don't know the answer because I never did it. Can you start writing off? I know that you can't just buy $60,000 in a year and claim that against your $60,000 a year income and pay zero in taxes. I know you can't do that, but how much of that can you do? Say that after 10 years, you've got $600,000 in inventory that you bought over 10 years and you put $60K into it. Say it's worth $1 million, $2 million now. How do you utilize that 10 years worth of $60K a year, $600,000 basis? And what benefits do you get? Can you use business use of home over those 10 years? Can you write off certain subscriptions? Can you write off part of your internet? Can you, I don't know what you can do over those 10 years that you're only buying but not selling. This is actually an amazing question. I've been asked it before and I don't know the answer. I'm assuming that, because one of the great things about being legitimate as a business is you can benefit from business use of home, writing off your office space. You can benefit from writing off, one thing I couldn't do as a chemical engineer. So as a chemical engineer, I worked 20 minutes away. I had a car. I commuted. I couldn't write off gas. I couldn't write off mileage. I had to buy a car, and I had to, what does the IRS give you? 65, 66 cents a mile, whatever it is. I probably drove 8,000 miles a year in commuting. None of that was a write-off. That was all I was paying full retail. Now that I'm a business, I bought an entire vehicle. I bought a Kia Sportage in cash with the business money. My CPA, I don't know how it works exactly, but they're depreciating that aggressively over 5-6 years, however many years it is, I don't know. But that's a benefit. It's 100% business. I'm only utilizing it for the business. But my car used to be necessary. I couldn't just teleport to where I used to work, so it was necessary, but it couldn't be written off because it was commuting. But now, since I'm a self-employed business owner, the car is fully a write-off. And just because it's a write-off doesn't mean I have a free car. Just because I have a write-off doesn't mean I have free gas. But it means I'm buying it with pre-tax money. When you're making six figures, you're paying FICA, you're paying state, you're paying federal. I'm paying 40% income taxes on the last dollar I earn, my marginal rate. So if I buy a car, a $30,000 car, and I buy that tax exempt, that's a 30 to 40%, 20 to 40% discount, basically. So that's where I go back to what I was saying earlier about people being dumb and ignorant on how taxes work. When people say a write-off, some people just think things are free. Oh, my car is a write-off. And then some people will think that means I got a free car. No, I didn't get a free car, but I bought a $30,000 car through the business with pre-tax money. When I was a chemical engineer, I made $75,000 a year at the end. If I bought a $30,000 car, I would have had to earn 40 grand. After tax would have turned into 30 grand. and then I would have spent. So I would have used 40 grand essentially, 40 grand of earned income, paying 30% taxes. Now I've got 30 at the end of it, and then I buy a car. Now I earn 30 grand pre-tax, and I buy a car, and that's all pre-tax money. So like that's where the strength of like having a business, doing this all legitimately, can really come in. It's a huge benefit, and people like tax optimization is a massive part of investing. Tax optimization is a massive part of business, and people are just so ignorant to how it works in this space. Not everyone, obviously, but a large amount of people are. 15 to 20% feels kind of low. I thought reseller average was more like 30 to 35%. Again, I'm estimating roughly. Were there years where it was higher? Absolutely. I don't remember what my gross number was in 2021, but 2021 was the year where I sold 3 of my trophy cards. I sold them very publicly. I sold them to Rusty, and then I sold some other ones, big cards internationally. There were years that I made more. There were years that I made closer to like 40%, but that's not like replicable. I'm not making 40% buying and selling sealed Scarlet and Violet, obviously. I'm not making 40% great, like, I do a lot of things. I'm doing a lot of different things. And again, what the IRS sees, and this will sound bad, Brad's gonna say something stupid. What the IRS sees versus what I actually make are like kind of 2 different numbers to some extent. Because again, if you compare it to past me as a chemical engineer, I was paying for everything. Now, like my cell phone, not 100%, but like 50% of my cell phone is subsidized because it's part business, part personal. I've always had a cell phone. If I wasn't a self-employed businessman, I would have a cell phone. But being that I am one, and I use this a shit ton for business, I write off half of it as a business expense. So I have subsidized internet. I have subsidized my house. My taxes are subsidized because I'm using some portion of my home. If I weren't self-employed, I would have the same house. I bought this house when I was a chemical engineer. When I was a chemical engineer, I was paying 100% of the property tax. I was paying 100% of everything. Now that I'm self-employed, some percentage of my square footage, some percentage of my taxes, all this and that are subsidized because I'm doing business in the way that it's defined in the IRS, and I'm holding up to that. It needs to be exclusively used for business, certain square footage, whatever, and it is. So again, I have a vehicle. I have like all these things add up, and all these things help. So in a year where I made $500,000. Well, now you take out the car. Now you take out all the mileage. Now you take out part of my house that I would have had anyways. You take out certain things that I would have had anyways, and you get that number down. So that's where like context matters. Like what are we actually asking here? And what does it fun like once you get down to it? What does it actually matter? I know certain people cry. Like people will cry about people show the gross numbers and it doesn't mean anything. If you show those people everything, if I gave them my tax return, if I gave them everything, it wouldn't be enough. They would move the goalposts. That's just the way that it works. Like, and starting as a new business, starting as like certain parts of that aren't relevant to you. Certain parts of that are not going to be relevant to you. You're not going to be doing them. So just take what you have and extrapolate and take from the parts that are relevant to you, and then the parts that aren't relevant to you, you can just disregard, right? Let's see. Yeah, I've made videos on most things at this point. I'm kind of doing a second lap of some videos at some point, but so many benefits to setting up a business. But as far as like this question as it's asked, I don't know how it would work if you just bought a fixed amount over 10 years and never sold anything. I don't know how much of that you can write off. What I think would happen is, since you're buying for resale, I think you would buy all that sales tax exempt. Even though you're not immediately reselling it, you're buying it with intent for resale 10 years later. So you're buying it sales tax exempt. And I think what you'd do is, I think you'd have to go accrual. I don't think you could go cash. So what you'd do is year one, you'd have internet expenses, you'd have mileage, you'd have this, and you'd have that. You'd maybe show a loss of $5,000 on paper, and I think you can only do like $3,000 a year in losses, and the other stuff has to carry forward. So maybe for the first 10 years, you'd be able to write off like a few grand a year towards your normal income, whatever, as you accumulate a $600,000 inventory. Now in year 11, when you start selling, you've got a $600,000 inventory, and you sell some percentage of that. Say you sell year one's inventory, you sell all of it in year 11. You bought it for 60 grand back in today, and then 10 years later you sell it. In year 11, you sell it for 160 grand. Well, you made 100 grand on that. So your inventory goes down from 600 to 540. Your cost basis on your inventory you retain, and you have $100,000 net that you pay taxes on. That's the way that I think it would work, but I'm not entirely sure. Talk to a CPA. You might be able to do more with that. You might be able to benefit more, but yeah. Comment K says 20 to 22% margin. But honestly, like when I said, what did I say? 15 to 20%? When I said 15 to 20%, or yeah, 15 to 20% is what I said. $800,000 of what I did last year was 1 to 5%. $800,000 of what I did last year. $800,000 of my gross. I only made like 3% on. So when I say 15 to 20%, that means I'm saying like 3% for this, and I'm saying like 30-something% for this. So it's like, listen to what I'm saying. And yeah, I don't know what more to say. Walrus says, how much do you make, Dan? A speeding train is going 100 miles per hour. The next town is 50 miles away. I make a percentage of the miles left after the next town. Like, as crazy as it sounds, and I know some people understand. Some people will never understand. Walrus is just memeing, as always. But there's a lot of nuance to what a business owner makes. There's a lot of nuance to what they make relative to what they would have done if they were doing a full-time W-2 job. There's a lot of benefits that come with having your own business and the things that you can write off that you would have otherwise. Thanks to Dan, I don't have taxable income, ordinary and necessary. Did he even answer the question yet? I'm 20 minutes behind, so I'm going to try to catch up. Is he shouting at us? I do talk a lot louder on lives, maybe even a little bit louder when I'm drinking the beverages, but... Oh man, Dan, my budget video is coming Monday, collectibles. So Monday, what my video is Monday is actually a recap video. I had a calendar alert come in that I'd completely forgotten about to follow up on a video from 6 months ago. So Monday's a 6 month ago video that I teased, that I talked about. I entirely forgot about it, but my calendar alert reminded me. I didn't promise, but I said in the next month. So not counting Monday, 4 videos beyond Monday. You will get 2 videos for sure. You will get the Catch 'em All collectibles, personal finance, this is how much we spend as a household video. And you will also get the, so the video I made a week and a half ago with the buckets, with the personal finance, financial order of operations, the 7 baby steps, if you're familiar with the Money Guys or Dave Ramsey, where I create my own financial order of operations, where I create my own baby steps. That will be one of the videos too. So 2 out of my next 4 videos will be heavily personal finance based. Let's see. It would be nice if Dan messaged me more just to say hi, not just when I post my Gran Turismo PS2 game. Good game, good game. Gran Turismo 3, Gran Turismo 4 are what I played most. Dan will tell you his parents' net worth and address. He's actually too transparent. Not that transparent. Which one is better for business, English or Japanese card? So you can make a great business on either. Like right now, the liquidity in both is just obscene. I have a little business arrangement going on with Retrospecs in the chat. Shout out Retrospecs if you're interested in Japanese booster boxes. I see in the live chat, he pinged me on eBay. But he also does a little bit of wholesale. Go subscribe to Retrospecs on Instagram if you want good ground floor, well, not ground floor pricing, but he's making some money, obviously. If you want good pricing on Japanese boxes, price check him. Price check him against eBay, price check him against other places, price check my eBay against other people on eBay, other non-eBay sites. We're doing a little bit of a partnership there with Japanese and English. I've historically done more English, but there's tons of people that are all English, all Japanese. You can make a lot of money in any of them. What are you optimizing for? If you're optimizing solely for money, depending on where your experience and knowledge is, I think either one could be the right answer, depending on where your experience and knowledge is. Mine is more in English. I do more in English, but I'm definitely doing some Japanese too. But are you optimizing for other things? If you hate English, if you only like Japanese or vice versa, it's reasonable to only do one or the other, but I kind of do both. Walrus insults Dan. Nick, hey, here's my eBay password. Why chemical engineering? Any feeling out period in college for other STEM disciplines? So my two favorite subjects in high school were, well, all of school were science and math. And I just felt like chemical engineering was the most natural blend of those two. It felt like the most, and it definitely was. Like at the college that I went to, if you were in biomedical, aeronautical, mechanical, electrical, a lot of the prerequisites, a lot of the core coursework were similar. You could go from, you could pivot from mechanical to aeronautical without vastly changing, especially if you did it sophomore year, without vastly changing the coursework that you needed to take. It was more the later stuff. Chemical engineering, though, had the most unique coursework, had the most unique like course class load of all the other ones, and I just really like chemistry and math. So those two fit really well. I started as a freshman with a chemical engineering major, and I stuck with it the whole way. I worked 10 years as a chemical engineer, and I enjoyed it a lot. There were certain things that I didn't like towards the end and throughout the whole journey, various jobs within that journey. But yeah, I really enjoyed it all. I wouldn't change it, but like I wouldn't go back either. I like different things about this, the way that it is. Come to Norway, Dan, where everyone's tax return is public. Is that real? I feel like I have heard that, actually. That's really interesting. If you can just look up anyone's tax return. That's interesting. Yeah. Share your SSN while you're at it. Not that transparent. He's calling people dumb again. Dan, people are really dumb collectibles. I mean, they are. Think about how dumb the average person is. Like, actually, 50% of people are dumber than the median dummy. The average could be higher or lower than the median, but we don't need to get into that too. I specifically remember being in various Discords where people posted Pokeani's video kind of trashing on him, and I did not chime in with the trashing. I was like, he's actually right is the sad part. I could go and I could pull up receipts in Discord, various Discords, where I was like, the funny part is he's not wrong. Like maybe minor intricacies of it he's wrong, but that's what cash basis filing is, and people dogpile them because they don't know how taxes work, and he's smart enough to consult with a tax professional. So yeah, I don't know. Show me the receipts. Show me where I was on him over that. I definitely was not. How different does the market look if grading is truly deterministic among the most popular companies? If a black label is always a black label on regrades? If grading were actually like 100% consistent, there would still be arbitrage. So there would still be cross-company arbitrage, because you would still be able to buy certain clean PSA 10s and turn them into black labels. You would be able to buy certain clean PSA 9s and turn them into CGC 10s, and vice versa. You would be able to arbitrage the fact that different scales have different things. PSA would lose some, I mean, all the companies would lose some amount of submission quantity, right? What percentage of each company's submission quantity is from like same company crack and regrade. Like, I'm not talking about PSA going to CGC and vice versa, because that would still happen. But like, I wouldn't think it's more than like 5%. I feel like certain people would get crazy and they would throw out a number like, oh, 10%, 15% of all PSA graded cards, 1 million cards every month, 100,000 of those are definitely crack and regrades. Not only do I think it's less than 5%, I think it's probably substantially less than 1%, to be honest. Out of 1 million cards, I don't think 10,000 of those were cracked from PSA slabs. Out of 1 million cards every month, I think it's substantially less than 1%. I could be wrong there. Let me know in the chat what you guys think. But I think some amount, the grading volume would go down by 0.5%, which wouldn't have any real effect. I guess like clean 9s, you would still have the various company arbitrage, but clean 9s, weak 10s, things like they wouldn't exist, right? Because the grade would be true and reproducible, so the grade would be like correct. The grade would be correct in that there wouldn't be like weak 10s that were actually 8s. I think it would be better for everybody. I could see 10s having more of a premium if they were actually all 10s. And I could see like 9s and 8s being hurt by that some amount, because the 10s were like true and clear and obvious. You'd still have borderline. You'd still have that borderline between 9 and 10s where certain things are up for debate, but you wouldn't have the 7s and 8s and the crazy things that we see from time to time. By the way, remember to be allowed to write off stuff. You need to show profits as a business. I mean, you're saying words, your average player, but I don't know how true they are. You absolutely can write off some amount of stuff if you're losing money. There's limits to it. You can't write off unlimited losses, but you can definitely get some amount of benefits if you are losing money as a business. What the limits are, how much they can counteract other earned income. I don't think you know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that either. But I feel like this is just untrue. You can definitely lose some amount of money and you can benefit some amount from write-offs. I know that's very vague, but like I'm just not confident enough to give you like specific examples. Dan, are you going to burn that shirt now? It's unlucky and you should. I did not burn the jersey that I wore to the game 5 that I went to against the Hurricanes where they lost 4-1. I'm not going to burn this shirt either. They will prevail as they did last round. Let's see. I remember when Dan used to buy used cars. He was a sensible man. One portion of my one portion of my inflated household spending, I was going to say, was buying a new car, but it's actually not. So that's a business expense. When we update my wife's car, it will be, well, that's a different thing. One thing I need to talk to my accountant about. So if I get a new car for the business and my old business car goes to be the personal car, I genuinely don't know how that works. I don't know if I personally have to buy it from my business for its fair market value. But that's actually a question that I'm going to have to ask my accountant, because when I update my wife's car, I'm likely going to, the business car will become like the family car and the business will get a new car. How that all interacts, how that works, I don't entirely know. And I don't want to say something that's going to get clipped out of context. I'm ignorant. I'm dumb of how that interaction works. So I've been talking about dumb, ignorant people. I'm dumb and ignorant on that specific subject. Very, very big thing in life is about knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know and being willing and able to admit when you don't know something and being smart enough to know when to consult professionals. I don't know why I said consult. When to consult professionals. Very, very big thing in life that a lot of people can't do. We got him, boys. Lock him up. An hour and a half in and Dan is ripping. I don't know what I said that prompted that, but I appreciate you, Mason. 15 minutes behind. Dan, chug a beer. I would if I had a beer. I only have this tropical. This is actually pretty good. Tart pineapple with hints of mango. It's a sharp turn from an IPA. It's a sharp turn from an IPA, but it's a decent cider, I would say. Hey guys, just got here. Did anyone ask Dan to show his tax return yet? I don't know if you're memeing, but people actually did ask me to show my tax return. Oh man, that's funny. Here we go. If Dan sold bulletproof vests for all these strays, he wouldn't have to worry about write-offs. Business would be booming. Business would be booming for sure. Dan aging his video ideas like fine wine. If you're looking for Japanese booster boxes, consider shopping at Catch 'em All Collectibles on eBay. The views expressed in this live will not affect the booster box you receive. Dan's financial order of operations: ask on the first day if they're currently employed. Finances are one of the most common reasons for divorce. I'm quite certain. Jesus, Dan, what did I say? What did I say 17 minutes, or no, only 7 minutes ago? I don't know what I said. But he said, Jesus, Dan. Being financially, one topic that, if I remember, I'll talk about it. And this will be much more of a personal finance YouTube that I'll have in the future, probably. But like how married couples exist, it actually fascinates me. I don't think I know one is right for me. I don't think there's a universal right or wrong. I don't think it's black and white. I don't, like, as with a lot of things in Pokemon, it exists in a gray area. One thing I can't wrap my mind around, though, is when you share a life with someone, you share a house with someone, you share children, you literally share DNA with someone, you share and create new life with someone, and then you have, like, my money and her money. We don't have that in this household. We have our money. We don't have, I know some people do, like, my account, your account, our account, and some people do, like, based on what percentage of the household income you make. Say someone makes 100 and someone makes 50, they would put in 1/3, they would put in 2/3 towards all the joint expenses, and then the rest would be like my money, our money. I don't understand that. I have a hard time understanding how people can make that work. And I mean, whatever works for you. I'm not saying my way is right, but the way that I grew up, the way that my wife's parents, like in-laws, grew up, it was always a joint account. All the money goes in. The only separate thing we have is, like, we have the business account, but she's literally my wife is the vice president of the company. Like, she has ownership in the company. I'm really intrigued by, like, the psychology behind finance, and I'm really intrigued by, like finance is such a taboo topic. I really like talking about it, and I understand why it's taboo. I understand why it's difficult to talk about it with friends and family and coworkers that are, like, close to you. And I think it's much easier to be very open and honest and transparent with not that everyone on here is strangers, but, like, the majority of people are strangers. 47 people are watching, maybe 5 or 10 are typing. But yeah, I really enjoy talking about finance, and it really interests me. Maybe some people are sharing, maybe some people are sharing their anecdotes or whatever in their in the live chat, but I don't know. Walrus order of operations, lock in the first date. Let's see. Does anyone think there's any value in fire sale Metazoo? I would not I'm selling some Metazoo. I would not advise buying it, honestly. I'm not watching the videos being put out about it maybe being bought and this and that. I'm vaguely keeping up on it through, like, Discords and stuff. I'm not watching the YouTube videos. I don't think it's coming back. It might, but the only one that I can confidently say will only go up as long as I'm alive is this one, because I'm personally buying it back, guaranteed, as long as I'm alive. Walrus needs a Kickstarter box. Need is a strong word. I need water, I need food, I need a Kickstarter box. I'm gonna try to get caught up. Wait, so Dan has a new car and his wife, who actually has a job, has an old one. So again, full transparency. In 2014, I was engaged to my wife. In 2014, she bought a brand new car. What was it before? I think it was before we were engaged. So in 2014, when we were dating but cohabitating, 2014 we were living together but dating. In the fall in 2014 we got engaged, but in the spring she bought a brand new car. She bought it with her money. At that time we were cohabitating, her money, my money. We got engaged in the fall, and in the spring of 2015, she owed, or was it 2013 maybe? So maybe she made payments on it for like a year by herself. She had a trade-in. She had some equity in it off the jump. She made payments out of her own money on it for a year. But she owed like 10 grand on it in the spring of 2016. Because we got engaged in 2014, married in 2015. I paid off with my money, which was on pace to becoming our money. I don't know why I air quoted, because it was actually our money. It was not hypothetically our money. So what I was seeing as our money at the time, even though it wasn't going to be until we got married and merged our accounts, but I paid off with my money, and she kind of fought it. She's like, no, I don't want you to do this. This is my car. This is your money. But I'm like, we're months away from it being our money. We're going to pay this off with our future money. My money today, but our money, the way that I see it. So she drove a brand new car from 2014. I mean, it's still the same brand new car. It's 10 years old, but like she drove a new car well before I ever drove a new car. So Brad, being the dramatic, pot-stirring drama llama that he is trying to get very dramatic and, oh my God, let's cancel Dan, this and that. Just the way Brad is. I mean, it is what it is. I'm always in Brad's mind. He's trying to make something out of it, but yeah, that's just what it is. I'm very transparent, open, honest. She drove a brand new car, and in the time from 2014 to today, for the past 2 years, I've had a brand new Kia Sportage. Before that, I had like 3 different cars while she had that same car, none of which had less than 100,000 miles, none of which had less than none of which was less than 10 years old. When I bought my car, when I bought my 2022 Kia Sportage, it was the first time I've ever driven a car that was less than 100,000 miles that I owned, and it was the first time I've ever had a car that was less than, or that was current decade. I think I've driven a car a few times that was like 6 or 8 years old. I was gonna say less than 10 years old, but I've never driven a car that was current decade until the Kia Sportage that I bought in 2022. So there's Dan's gonna be sleeping on the couch if he doesn't remember those dates. There's Brad trying to get me in trouble, trying to blow up something that's nothing. That's just the way that he is. But no, honestly, like, there might be a benefit. This might be a little loophole strategy. I need to run it by my accountant because I'm not gonna evade taxes. But if I can avoid taxes by buying a brand new car every 10 years, and so the business buys it and the business uses it 100% for 4 to 5 years, and then I sell it to the personal household and the business buys a brand new one again. Absolutely, if I can subsidize our household's car expenditure by having the business buy the new ones and eat all the depreciation on the front end, and then having a nice clean one owner that we owned ourselves as our personal car, like, absolutely, that's just another one of those benefits that you get. I need to verify with my accountant how it works, but those are the kind of things you can do when you are doing things above board, on the books, legitimately as a business. Cider Dan goes wild. I'm definitely not like hammered at all. She's currently taking the bus, Brad, all 59 miles. Most couples have 2 jobs, Dan. I don't know what I said that prompted that, but we have 2 jobs too. I just have self-employed job. She has real job. Maybe 5 to 10 are typing, slow down there, you're not that big. Yeah, it's only Brad, Walrus, Retro, Mason. I see ditto. I see, yeah, maybe there's like 4 to 6 typing. Dan paid off the car knowing she was going to be the breadwinner while he stayed home. See, if you want to see my investment portfolio, if you want to see my history of investments, I invested in Bitcoin at $200 or $300. I invested in a wife in 2015 that has paid vast dividends over the years. So I have a pretty good track record in the investments that I've picked. So definitely look at my history to project the fact that what I'm saying today has weight, has relevance, because I have a pretty clean track record. Let's do the finance channel, Dan. I can talk macro and you can talk personal finance. I've actually been in conversations with a couple different people. Couple as more memes, I think, but who knows. But I've definitely been in conversation with a couple different people about like having a finance channel, maybe having a podcast of some sorts. I think it's minimum at least 2 or 3 years off. I don't think it's going to happen anytime too soon. But I would be surprised if I didn't have one someday. Maybe what I'll do is maybe I'll just continue weaving more finance into this channel, and maybe I'll never make a devoted finance channel. But I really like the idea. Oh man, Ditto Faction is 2 hours behind. 3 Ninjas, Rocky loves Emily. Rocky loves Emily. Great movie. Again, Rocky, Colt, and Tum Tum. Great movie. Very into the nostalgic space. Very into. Let's see what I had that on VHS. I can picture the VHS right now. That like orange cover on it. That movie came out. 3 Ninjas movie. August 7th, 1992. I definitely did not see that in theaters. I did not see that when it came out or anything. But mid-late 90s, I watched that movie a lot. We had that on VHS. I was getting a lot of use out of that. Dan, I think it's time you get a job. Dan, remember when I paid off your car? I think I'll chill. I would love if well, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm in a very good spot. Like we live for very cheap. We live for very cheap. When I cover our finance, when I cover our household finances in the next month, in the next 4 videos after Monday, not counting Monday, I will detail roughly what my wife makes. I don't know if she'll be comfortable with it. I don't know if some of her coworkers actually more and more. I've been doing this full time, going on 3 years now. More and more, like a lot of all the close friends and family, all those people know what I do, and some amount of them, they eventually ask like, oh, what's his eBay name? And they search the eBay and they sort by high to low, and they, oh my God, he's got this card, he's got that card. And I remember back in my Stein group, the guy actually passed away since, but he used to follow my eBay religiously, and he would talk to me a lot about like, oh man, I saw that you sold this and you sold that. Are these really worth that? Are those real sales? And it got a little uncomfortable, but some of my wife's coworkers have asked what my business name is, and more and more people, like slightly more distant, have gotten to find out what my name is, and it's a little bit weird. But yeah, it is what it is. Again, the taboo nature of finances. I think it would be to the benefit of most people if finances weren't as taboo, but I understand why they are. I understand why in-depth financial topics, personal finance topics, not like macro financial topics, but because those are more talked about in school. But I understand why more micro-financial, personal financial topics aren't taught in school, because it would just lead to so much pushback. Like if kids started going home talking about the financial order of operations and mom and dad. Like one thing I always found weird too, the idea, because I only know what I know, right? Like I know what I was raised on. I knew what I grew up in. My parents were always very open with finances. And I think that if we were struggling that could have been too much burden to put on a kid. So certain households, I understand why more strategy is required in what transparency is given from the parents to the children on the financial situation. Some amount of shame is there from certain people because they like knowingly are in a bad spot because they're just terrible with money and this and that, and they don't want to project that on their kids. But I know, like I've talked to adults in my life, friends, family, coworkers, who talk about their childhood, and they talk about they get in trouble if they asked about money. They had no idea what their parents made. They had no idea what the mortgage was, what the rent was, what the cars cost, this and that. I loved math growing up. I constantly was talking to my dad about, like, I was going on jobs with my dad, and we were installing this or fixing that, whatever it was, and I'd be like, how much money did you make? What did this cost? What did that cost? And I knew what our house cost. I knew what my dad was making, what my mom was making. I know pretty in depth like what my parents' finances are today still. Like, I'm very open with my dad over all that. But I think that's, again, because it's the way that I lived, going back to the joint finances. I think that's the best way for me, but I can't universally say it's the best. I definitely think some people, more to the extremes. I think if you have an insane amount of money, or if you have very, very little, I think putting that knowledge, putting that burden of that knowledge on your children could be bad. And one thing I think about a lot is trying to, and this is getting way more down the finance rabbit holes, because I consume a lot of finance content, personal finance and general, like financial independence, retire early type content. Raising children that are enabled and not entitled. That's one thing I think about a lot. I want to give my kids more than I had, but I don't want to give them too much. Like, and Brad's going to say something here. I don't think I got too much as a child. I didn't really want for a lot, but I also knew the value of a dollar. My parents paid for, they paid for what they paid for. My first car was provided to me, but I also did a lot. I did chores around the house. I worked with my dad and this and that. College was not entirely paid for. I have friends who had a free ride going to college. Their parents paid for it all. And I had friends who their parents paid for nothing. My parents paid for like half. And then a benefit that my dad had through his job paid for a fair bit too. The nuances. Like, when I left college, my parents had paid for X amount, I had paid for Y amount, and we paid about the same. We paid about 50-50. Of the sticker price, what percentage that was, blah, 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 nuance, transparency. But I want to do more for my kids than I got, but I don't want to do so much more that they end up spoiled little brats, right? So enabled, but not entitled. I think my parents did a really good job of raising me enabled, not entitled. I think my wife's parents did a good job of raising her enabled, not entitled. And I don't want to get into too much the nature versus nurture and the whole, like, both my wife and I think are, and our sisters would not argue this, but my wife and I are the financially savvy, prudent, whatever ones of the pairs. Both of us have a sister, and both of them have struggled more with money, given all the same things. So it's like, even giving two kids all the same things, the same nurture, the same nature, doesn't lead to the same outcome. So trying to navigate all of that is like something I'm really interested in doing the right way, and there's just no universal answer that guarantees that, right? But it's something I really think about a lot, and I know I'm getting super deep. Better be hammered calling your wife an investment. I'm getting slapped if I call my sugar mom an investment. Know your place, Dan. Best ways to optimize wife ROI, asking for a friend. Calling my wife an investment that is paid. Calling my wife the best investment I've ever made. She gave me my 2 children that I have. Her and I have the same life goals. Her and I are aligned on all the big things in life. And absolutely, we squabble. We have our little things, our little tiffs here and there. But, my wife is the best investment I've ever made. A lot of people bring themselves to financial hardship or even financial ruin through the partner that they choose. And I'm thankful that I didn't go down that route. Oh, God. Oh, man. Walrus is wildin'. Brad, you gotta chill, bro. Remember when Dan saved us in Dallas? What did I do in Dallas? I can't remember what you guys are alluding to here. Do I? I don't remember what you guys are alluding to here. If they taught personal finance in school, then they would have less people to run their machine. That's getting a little bit like, I know what you're saying here. I definitely think to some extent, I assume the route that you're going here is that school is some form of indoctrination to build good little happy consumers that are a cog in the wheel, a cog in the machine. And no, I fully know what you're saying there, and I believe it to an extent. But yeah, that's an interesting line of topic. But Silver Spoon Collectibles thinks he didn't get too much growing up. No, I never once said I didn't get a lot. I said I got what I got. Like, if anyone has a specific question, I will answer it. I answer a lot with transparency. I had my first car given to me. My first car was a 1990 something Pontiac Bonneville. It was my grandma's old car, maybe $1,000, $1,500 car at the time. I had that given to me. I paid for the gas. I think I had the insurance given to me for the first certain amount of years, and then I started paying it maybe. I forget when I started paying it. I don't remember all the intricacies. But again, some had more, some had less. I know Brad's just memeing, but some amount of people, one thing people will do in life is they'll say, everyone has more than me, or this person has more than me, so I'm not even going to try. And people will just take a defeatist attitude. I could rant for hours and hours, and I will save everyone from it. I will not do it, but maybe I'll do it on my finance channel. The American dream is dead. Don't even try. There's no reason to try because we can't do it. Our grandparents had it better, blah, blah, blah. Back in the 50s, you could do this, you could do that. Like, that is all just defeatist bullshit. Like, there is so much opportunity in Pokemon, in the market, in the economy, in the world we live in today. So many of things that used to be considered luxuries, so many things today that we have that we consider necessities didn't even exist 50 years ago. The American dream, keeping up with the Joneses, the way that it's expanded, the things that we consider necessities didn't even exist. They were niceties or luxuries. And yeah, I could go on and on about that, but so much opportunity in the Pokemon market we live in, so much opportunity in the world that we live in. I'm not drunken, but buzzed ramblings to 45 people at 1:15 a.m. on a Wednesday night. I guess it's like a Thursday morning now. The opportunity we have in this world that we're living in today is unfathomable. To say that the American dream is dead while you're living in America with the privilege that you have, having been born here, and again, not everyone watching this is American, and not everyone has that, but it blows my mind what some people will say, and they'll just sit on their hands and do nothing because they think they should have more, they deserve more because someone has more, blah, blah, blah. But it's Dan against the world, it seems. I'm going to wrap up really soon. I have half of one of these to finish off camera, but we had a, damn, what year was it? Growing up, one of my favorite things in my childhood was the fact that my dad was like a mechanic. He tinkered a lot with various things. He'd buy snowmobiles and four-wheelers and three-wheelers and dirt bikes and mopeds. I had a moped. It was like a 1970-something Pooch. I think it was like a P-U-C-H. Let me look this up right now. P-U-C-H moped. Let's say like 1976 or something. I think I had like a 1976 Pooch moped. That thing was 1 horsepower. And moped, motor pedal. I mean, you had to pedal that thing. If you were going on a grade more than like 2 degrees, you had to pedal that thing. But if you were going with a tailwind down the hill in front of my house, very light grade, maybe a 2 degree, 3 degree downhill, you could get that thing going like 22 miles an hour. I would bomb around on that moped. That was a good time. That was a good time. Let me get up to current after my little moped memory there, and then I'll end this live. Oh man, we need to get the sisters on a live stream. I have a feeling Dan was the spoiled sibling. Let's see. I'm sure she would agree investment is better than love of my life, partner, soulmate, to you, big guy. Goldfish memory, Dan. I graduated high school in 2012. They definitely did not teach finance in school whatsoever. The only finance I got in school was probably like in pre-calc. It was higher level math that wasn't even required. So where I went and when I went to school, I don't think it's called this anymore, but it used to be Math A, Math AB, and Math B. Math A was like mostly geometry, Math AB, trigonometry, and B. I forget what they all were, but those were the requirements to get a Regents diploma. Pre-calc was something I took, but it was extra. Not everyone had to take it. In pre-calc, maybe it was in math. Maybe it was in Math B though. We did a little bit with mortgage rates. We did a little bit with interest, principal, things like that. P, NRT, things like that. We did a little bit of it. Oh, good. He doesn't remember. You guys owe me. You guys owe me for something big. I forget what. See, that's the thing. I don't keep receipts. You guys are the big receipt keepers. You guys are like, oh, man, Dan owes me this guy owes me that. And you guys are massive, massive receipt keepers. lot of receipt keepers in the hobby. If I stick my neck out for somebody, if I buy someone, like, I don't keep score. I don't keep track. But I see a lot of receipt keepers here. When Dan watches The Matrix, he roots for the robots. I root for the robots too. My logic is undeniable. My favorite part is Brad is a subscriber just to make sure his comments make it on screen. He's doing the pay to play. He's a member, not only a subscriber. He's a member to make sure he makes it on screen. It's Dan against the world. Appreciate your willingness to be so transparent and to share the knowledge you have. I appreciate the fact that somehow people enjoy me discussing all this stuff. I had a nap and you're still going. I'm ending soon, Pokemon Steven, but I hope you had a good nap. You are a god. You are a god. You are a god, Pokemon Steven. We need more content. Dan, if I didn't keep receipts, I never would have gotten that NFT, so respectfully, LMB. Thoughts on 151 SIRs, PSA 10s? Wait until reprints or not. Are you talking about buying them? Like, ideally buy the raw and grade yourself. Sometimes you can buy for raw price plus grading price. You can buy a PSA 10 at auction. If so, do that. Grading might get cheaper over time, yada yada yada, but like, I think you get good experience buying raw and grading yourself. You can buy raw, grade yourself. If you lose money, you still gained experience, so you gained something. You got value out of it. And there are always certain cards, well, there have always been certain cards that you can make margin on. Will that last forever? I don't know. Just call me Steven. Hope to meet you someday. Maybe someday you'll make your way over. I don't know that I'll ever make it to Australia, but I am meeting another one of my Australian friends this weekend. I'm looking forward to it. Sunday, meeting Kai. But yeah, with that, I'm going to end it. I probably should have ended it some time ago. But yeah, I thought Pokemon was Steven's first name. I'm a fool. I appreciate everyone hanging out. I look forward to seeing everyone that I will see in Orlando. If not in Orlando, hopefully I'll see you at Chicago or Charlotte or New Jersey, one of the other conventions I'm going to. Retro wants to know your thoughts on Kai, Pokemon Steven. Steven, I will call you. Only Steven. We go way back. We go way back. I know him under various names like 1 Minute Flips and others from the past. But yeah, with that, I am going to wrap up here. I appreciate everyone watching.